We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
And here we go.
Ay, sorry. Good morning. It's 12:35. Today is Sunday, October 24th, 12:35 in the morning. Thank you very much again for joining me. And thank you. Sa for tonight, we'll be just touching on the promised topic, Potemkin Villages. It's still a work in progress. This has given me a huge headache. This basically refers to self-deception. And I chose the Potemkin Villages to probably the best gateway to describe um, maybe un unintentional, or should we say unconscious self-deception. Um, we're going to use the Potemkin villages. The Potemkin villages refers to any kind of false structure built to believe or deceive, rather, um, any kind of false structures built to deceive observers into believing that a situation is much better than it actually is. The term has its origin in the fake villages that were constructed by the Russian military leader Grigory Potemkin in the 18th century. This was in order to woo Empress Catherine the Great. Potemkin arranged a show of prosperity during her inspection trip to Crimea in 1787. And after the acquisition of the new land in Crimea and other regions following Russia's victory over the Ottoman Empire, he made the situation on the ground look better than it was by erecting replicas of pretty towns and fancy fireworks. So basically, um, this could apply, or this could relate with how we present ourselves to people, how we employ the um, trimmings, or show a different story based on a lie or deception. Let's call it a lie. Let's call it as it is. Let's not try to sugarcoat it or call it by any other name. So through through this, we can, at least in a way, peer into probably a reasoning behind um, the basic, uh, probably the basic motivation of self-deception. Um, Again, this is not a simplification. I believe this would be an oversimplification, because self-deception is a very, very difficult subject to. It's a rabbit hole, believe me. I've been reading like at least four reference books. There's three more here. Yeah. And they're all telling the same thing. They're all telling the same thing. And the basic rationale for lies that we tell ourselves is to make ourselves feel better. Second, for prestige. Uh, we want to appear more than we are. We try to appear something that we're not. And initially, it could be motivated purely by trying to get someone's attention or affection. Second, you're trying to gain trust. Also, you're trying to gain mainly, it's mainly trying to capture acknowledgement, not only from the people, which is the initial reason for it. You're deceiving people so that they will believe you. You will be put in a different place than where you are really. You are misrepresenting yourself so that you can gain their affection, their attention mainly. Um, so that as the story of the Potemkin villages, this is mainly so that he can impress and woo Empress Catherine the Great. So Potemkin wanted to have her attention initially. And then, of course, once he gains her attention, he may fall into a relationship with her. Not only that, he will gain prominence and eminence. And because of what he accomplished, since it was during the war and he was able to establish a very prosperous um, after war situation in a newly acquired land, he will in turn gain prominence, eminence, and respect, which is basically, I think, the main reason for self deception. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to be more than we really are. So that's one of the things that I think the biggest um, rationale behind it. And if we also include this PDF, which is 165 pages, it's another book on its own. So um, another this is another frame of reference, and also I think this is the main reason why I have a headache last week and I wasn't able to finish it. So um, I'll just try to at least scratch the surface initially, so that I'll be able to I'll be able to at least give you an idea on the direction of this research. This is still in some way related to this is still some way related to this is still some way related to the Red Queen paradox. That's one of the things that I've noticed. Once I went that rabbit hole, it started unraveling a lot of threads that we have to follow so that we can get into the main core of the Red Queen paradox. And sadly, this is one of them. And I think this is a very huge part of motivation, self identity. This is, I think, one of, if not one of the most dangerous, how do you say that, misrepresentation of the hierarchy of needs from Maslow, which I think we discussed it at some point. So this is a very dangerous road that you'll go down to when you think that you're just simply trying to gain attention, affection, because based on the research that I did so far, this begins very, very early. That's why um, like I said, it's part of the Red Queen paradox. I was looking into the primary motivations, primary results of early conditioning, early childhood rearing, effects of um, uh, lack of uh, how do you say that, parental affection maybe, or attention. So the child in turn tries or starts, begins to create this representation, or his own little world, where he is in full control, where he is able to get the infection or get the affection of the people around him. So, like I mentioned, this is another rabbit hole. So, um, please bear with me. I wish I was able to pick the right topics um, to discuss and talk about. So we'll just like I said, we'll just scratch the surface. And so far, I think this all relates to each other. I'll just read off um, one of, I think, the best way to introduce it also. Why what happens when we are unable to distinguish through the years. Let's say it started with just trying to gain the affection or the attention of your parents, and then through the course of the years, this has become an unconscious behavior. You are starting to misrepresent or show a different side of you, like the masks that we wear, as we discussed previously. That's also one of the things that this piece of this part of this, the Potemkin villages. I think this will be a 3 or 2 part discussion. We'll see. We'll see how far we can go with this. Let's just start with the next part of this, the allegory of the cave from the Republic. I have the book, but I'll just read off the PDF. Um, this is from Plato. They're both writer and the teacher. His mentor Socrates, and one of his dialogues that he wrote is, if you're ever able to get your hands on the Republic, this is quite a lengthy dialogue on the nature of justice. This is the allegory of the cave. This will be found on book 7 of Plato's The Republic. And this is a dedicated discussion of the required education of a philosopher king, as they say. And um, the philosopher king, of course, would be a man of values, a man of integrity, a man of knowledge, wisdom, and that doesn't necessarily apply solely to leaders or whatnot. It should be applied to individuals, because if we have the right values, if we carry integrity, if we have all of these qualities of a good leader, then we would be an ideal person altogether. So we'll just read off of this, and uh, this is like a dialogue. So I said, let me show in a figure how far our nature is enlightened or unenlightened. Behold, human beings living in an underground cave, which has a mouth open towards the light and reaching all along the cave. Here they have been from their childhood and have their legs and necks chained so that they cannot move and can only see before them, being prevented by the chains from turning round their heads. And above and behind them is a fire blazing at the distance. And between the fire and the prisoners, there is a raised way. And you will see, if you look, a low wall built along the way. And like the screen which a marionette player have in front of them, over which they saw show the puppets. And do you see, I said, men passing along the wall carrying all sorts of vessels and statues and figures of animals made of wood and stone and various materials, which appear over the wall. Some of them are talking, others are silent, and like ourselves, they see only their own shadows or the shadows of the one another. I'm sorry. Like ourselves, they see only their own shadows or the shadows of one another, which the fire throws on the opposite wall of the cave. And if they are able to converse with one another, would they not suppose that they were naming what's actually before them? And suppose further that the prison had an echo which comes from the other side. Would they not be sure to fancy when one of the passers-by spoke that voice which they heard come from the passing shadow? So this is a little, how do you say that? This is a little um, hard to process. I'll just include some of the links that I found um, for the allegory of the cave, since I think uh, we'll we'll stick on this for now. Hi, JE. Hello. Good evening. Good morning. Sorry, just replying. Just sent a message. Sorry. So going back, to like properly digest, I think it would be best if you're able to at least read the full document. So at least the main message of the allegory of the cave, um, human perception cannot derive true knowledge. And instead, real knowledge can only come via philosophical reasoning. That's how they're placing it. JE, I'm reading from Plato's The Republic, the allegory of the cave. And so if we don't try to go beyond, or if we do not try to read further from what we have in front of us, if we base everything on perception, like our sight, our hearing, our taste or smell, it could be manipulated, or it could be too shallow of a understanding. So we need a far better or a far deeper, um, it could be a far better way to understand or have a complete picture, other than simply relying on what we see. We have to go beyond or scratch the surface, as we often say in this program. Wait, JE, I'll type it in. This is, wait, one moment. This is there. I'm regularly of the tree. If you can Google it, if you can try to find, there, one moment. It's here. I will try to add the links on the chat box. No, no, not the chat box. The comment section later. After this, I'll have to pull up a different application, so I don't want to lose the signal. Um, I'll add the best source that I've got so far. It basically explains the whole cave, and it gives you a visual representation of the cave, like how it's being described. So going back, Plato realizes the general run of humankind can think and speak, etc., without, as far as they acknowledge, any awareness of his realms or forms. So, going back to self deception, this greatly applies simply because if we just base perception, if we only base our meager understanding of our own motivation, then we would, of course, simply say, it makes me feel good. This is okay. I'm not hurting anyone. It's okay. Let's say white lies or putting on airs, like simply like lying on your resume, something like that. So, yeah, it could have started from, uh, let's say, your childhood. um, your parents were not giving you sufficient attention, and during this particular time, you have developed this persona or personality. You have created this character in a way. You have created this character that exudes, let's say, confidence or exudes intelligence, exudes well, uh, well, uh, well communication, things like that. You're able to express yourself well and things like that, so that you can get the attention that you're not getting from your parents. In order to get that from other people, let's say your teachers, your schoolmates, or whatnot. So slowly, this builds your map of the world. And sadly, the map that you are following is, instead of guiding you to the right path, slowly takes you through the wilderness. Let's put it that way. I love that word, the wilderness of mirrors. Um, we we see the misrepresentations, or we see the mirror image of what we do. Instead of telling the truth, we have normalized lying, we have normalized or justified, at least. I think that would be the better term. We have normalized deceit, um, not only to ourselves, but the people around us. So you, instead of confronting the dragons or confronting what causes you distress, you now look for it through other means. And that in turns leads us to addiction, alcoholism. It takes us a path down, down lower, because we're trying to find meaning. We're trying to find the rationale of our existence. And since we're unable to understand it, since we cannot understand, or let's say choose not to go further, since we choose to stay blind in the cave, uh, sadly, our perception or our map of meaning is misguided. And therefore, we have a false sense of self fulfillment. We have a false sense of gratitude, or we misalign or misrepresent almost everything that we come across with. We try to justify all actions that we do, all the hurt that we do to others. We try to justify that because we have gotten used to just focusing on ourselves. We have focused on our deception that we are making ourselves feel good, we're making ourselves feel better with minor things or meager things. Um, Buying new clothes, getting we're all playing that part. So instead of satisfying this hunger, this need for meaningful things, we try to find the in immediate gratification. we try to cover up the uh, the true essence of what we're looking for, our meaning, our probably true path, or however you term that with yourself, because we all have our self symbolisms or meanings that we have created from our childhood. And again, it goes back to the Red Queen paradox, which is basically our initial creation of our own self symbolic logic. So that is, yes, another rabbit hole that I wish we down to, but we're already here, so might as well. So going back, just so we can explain more about the allegory of the cave. I'm really sorry if I can't put it. Let's see. I'll broadcast again just in case we get disconnected when I open the application. Okay, let's just wait for that. So while I'm waiting for that to open, hopefully it doesn't disconnect us. There you go. Beautiful, beautiful. One moment. I'll put this on the chat box so you can follow here. This, this. Wait, wait. There. Oh, copy link. Here. So you can follow what I'm saying. Please let me know if you're able to open the link. I hope you're able to open the link. There, it's there. So again, we're talking about the allegory of the cave. If you're able to see it, please let me know so that we can just follow through it. I think there's what, 4 pages or 5 pages. It this is the best way for us to discuss this because there's a visual representation. There's a visual representation of the cave, and then there's an explanation. I'm just reading off of this so that it's much easier to digest. So there. Mhm. Okay. Um, this is number 4. Such prisoners would mistake appearance for reality. They would think the things they see on the wall, the shadows, meaning, were real. They would know nothing of the real causes of the shadow. And when the prisoners talk, what they are talking about, if an object or a book, let's say, is carried past behind them, it casts a shadow on the wall, and the prisoners say, I see a book. What is he talking about? He thinks he is talking about a book, but is he really talking about a shadow? But uses the word book. So what does that refer to? So there are a lot of questions and um, philosophical discussion about the whole the whole premise. But again, like I'm saying, is most of the time we're just looking at the shadow. We're not looking at what is passing in front of the light, because if this is the light, the shadow is created when something passes behind it. So if we don't try to bother and like scratch the surface, we can just say it's a book, but what kind of book? Is that a pornography magazine? Is that a book on philosophy? Is that a love story or whatever? So we have to find out what it is. So we have to scratch the surface of what we perceive through our eyes, through like the basic senses that we have, and we can probably learn more and find out more about life or ourselves for that matter. And that this, like I said, will be under under the Red Queen paradox. I'll put it there. I'll put this video there, and then the Red Queen paradox. mainly covers our slow development from childhood to adulthood. Just a refresher. It's been a while since I've discussed that. So it's our creation of our own symbolic systems. I have my own like personal meaning for words, or I have my own interpretation for, let's say, a song. We all listen to the same song, but it comes to me differently because I have my own sense of interpretation of it. I have my own memories for that particular song, and I have a set of symbols, or a set of representations of time, place, emotion, people, scent, sounds, all attached to that particular song. So when I play that song, it means different to me when other people listen. So sometimes we misrepresent that, or we how do you, what's the best word to say? What's the right word? Um, we we do not say exactly what we mean. Most people will just say something for in agreement, like, yeah, yeah, it's a great song. I blah 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 blah. So they don't. They're afraid to be judged. They're afraid to be um how do you say that? They're afraid to be seen naked. That's the term. Most people, um, maybe majority of the people, are afraid to be naked. When you say naked, it means to be seen as you really are, like without pretensions, or without pride, or whatever, without the masks, let's say, without the mask that you're wearing. Very few people would prefer to do that. Very few people would prefer to show who they really are to the world. Some people think it's what, a weakness. People consider it as um, what? Some people consider it as a dangerous expression of their reality. Most people prefer to hide that instead of show it to others. They would rather play on the prestige economy, which is another rabbit hole that we will touch on for this long-winded episode. So these are all basically connected. The prestige economy touches on your self-esteem, your extroversion, your negative motivational responses. Like I said earlier, when you put on your mask, when you have no clear representation of your meanings, if you have, let's say, built up a misguided map of meaning, then you will play on the prestige economy. You would rather play the part where you can get almost instant gratification, almost instant respect, instant attention, instant love without true value. So that creates a shallow feeling, an empty feeling. You already have, let's say, cars, prestige, or you already have like the most beautiful house, the latest gadget, whatever, but it doesn't mean anything to you. You did not work hard for it. It was just given to you, or you got it through that. It wasn't based on your own. It wasn't based out of, let's say, your blood, sweat, and tears, as other people would put it. You got it too easy. So that in turn doesn't give true value. That in turn sometimes gives very little meaning to the things, or the people that we have around us. That's why without that struggle, without that dragon slaying, as they say, without that, I don't think we'll be able to give like the real value or the real meaning for the things that we have, the people that we have around, things like that. So if we do not have an authentic understanding of ourselves, this whole the whole premise of this is revolving around um self-awareness. This is probably like two layers under self-awareness. This is almost touching conscious and unconscious actions brought about by childhood trauma or childhood early development. And I'll do my best to outline this. I'll do my best to have this all typed up properly, maybe, and I'll include some links of the research that I've used and the books that I have used as sources of information. These are all from Mr. Ernest Becker. He's a Pulitzer Prize awardee. He's one of the best, I think, person who summed up at least the early development of meanings for like other than Carl Jung. He's a lot more recent, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is what 1970s or 80s. Let me see. Yeah, somewhere around. I'll just post the link. From his books, we will get to understand generational meanings from individual to a group dynamic because we're of course living in a group, and he creates that beautiful picture of how and where we started to like give value, give meaning to our actions, our internal motivations, things like that. He even um, wonderfully and concisely explained why the primitive peoples were a lot more living with meaning and understanding of their true value of themselves because they were still connected uh, with the what's this with superstition. They were still connected with that unseen world. They still gave it value. They still gave it its sacrifices, and then came in religion, came in new religions rather, that in one way or the other was insufficient to fill in that hunger for meaning. Let me just read a few parts if you don't mind. Let's see. What is. Uh, one moment. Let me get that. This is from Escape from Evil, Ernest Becker, Dr. Ernest Becker. He wonderfully connected the economics of ritual and practical techniques, and then economics as an explanation of, I'm sorry, expiation of power. So let me just go to that page. Guilt also is in this. He has wonderfully explained the source of guilt here. So precisely in order to keep himself immersed in. There we go. Beautiful. There. All right. Here we go. Primitive life was openly immersed in. Um, primitive life was openly immersed in debt, in obligation to the invisible powers and the ancestors, the dead souls. The group lived partially by drawing its powers from the non living. Unlike us, primitives knew the truth of man's relation to nature. Nature gives freely to its bounty to man, and this was the miracle for which to be grateful and beholden and give to the gods of nature in return. Whatever once received was already a gift. And so, to keep things in balance, one had to give in return to one another and by offering to the spirits. Gods existed in order to receive gifts, and the helps us under this helps us understand why primitive society seems so masochistic to us in the willingness submission to nature and dead spirits. It has been found that the perfect formula for keeping things in balance. This is the perfect formula for keeping things in balance. So if we unpack that, if we live in gratitude or if we live in a state of um, uh, willingness to submit, to be of service, if we put something else above us, not that we consider ourselves as the higher, let's say, what's the best thing? Like we are a step above of everyone else. So if you put yourself at a higher pedestal or at a higher position from everyone else, you would not, number one, give them any respect. Second, you will always consider yourself first before them. You will consider um, your truths be the only truth. You will not open your mind to further learning or further understanding because you are at the higher level. So what they mean by being in a masochistic state of mind, it's because you are willing to submit. You put yourself in a lower position, and when you do that, you have humility. You have um, you have other than humility, you have an intrinsic value for others than yourself. You would put others before yourself. So that's, I think, one of the most important. Uh, what's the word? That's the most important result of believing in something higher than yourself. If let's say you believe or you have faith or you believe in a higher power, if you believe in a higher being, then in turn you would always put yourself in a position where you want to be of service, you want to understand, you want to open your mind to more learnings because you are humble. So I think that's the best way to unpack that. And then also everything else is given its proper respect. Everything else is given its proper value. If you come from that particular state of mind, or if you come from that particular um, point of view, let's say, if you're looking at it from that perspective, it also gives you that power over yourself. You will be more critical of your actions. You would also consider other things prior to yourself. You would not instantly gratify yourself. You would be willingly, or how do you say that? You will have a willingness. to go through sacrifices because you are aware of the rituals of sacrifices. You are aware that you must give something to the gods, or that's also one thing that we'll have to touch on, sacrifices, the lost rituals of sacrifices in the times of old, from the Bible stories, and I think not only Bible stories, from history, across time. Sacrifices have been like a part of primitive life. It gives you value for things. You work hard so that wait, perfect example. Cain and Abel. Cain was giving substandard or sub-quality sacrifices to the gods, and he was not being given the favors. Abel was giving due sacrifices to the Lord. He was choosing the best barley, the best wheat. He was sacrificing the best cows, things like the fattest cows, instead of giving like mediocre or um, how do you say that, low quality sacrifices. So if you apply that, if you're aware of the sacrifices, then if you apply that in your life, you will not instantly gratify yourself by, let's say, accepting a menial position for immediate gratification. What you would do is you would continuously improve yourself, continuously develop yourself, your skills, your talents, your passions, whatever. The sacrifices, these are the sacrifices that you are offering to the God, which is. So when you empower yourself, when you sacrifice for yourself, then you get the fruits of your labor. You get the fruits of your sacrifices. You get a better job. You get a better pay. You get fulfillment. You get satisfaction, and everything else follows. So I'm really sorry if I'm like oversimplifying everything. It's because I don't want to go through, I don't want to like go dive into like too technical explanations or too technical discussions. If we can, as best as we can, explain this in layman's terms, then why not? If you'd like to go through the technical nitty gritty of it, you can. I'll be putting on the links like I mentioned, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much for spending almost an hour with me. Let me just check if someone is sending us any comments or messages. Let's see. I don't think anyone is. So this will just be me talking. Yep. No. There. Yeah. No. Okay. So there. So again, thank you very much. I really appreciate, really appreciate you listening to this. Don't worry, like I mentioned, we'll go over all of this in more detail. This is just what, an hour introduction um to the Potemkin villages. I'll try to include the research, like I mentioned, as best as I can once I finish it, because I still haven't f- like completed it. I have tried. My God, it's it's a rabbit hole. It just keeps going and going and going. We'll also touch on the currencies of attention, affective neurosciences. We may touch on that. Hopefully, there's going to be no need for it, but we'll see. We'll try to find out if we can still touch on it, if it's still going to be an integral part of the research. We'll see. But again, thank you very much, and we'll cover in more detail again the allegory of the cave, some additional um, clarifications for the terms. Also, we'll touch on hopefully the gratitude trap next episode. Ideologies, maybe we'll touch on that. At least try to define it, like what ideologies are. I think uh, I'm sorry, Dr. Jordan Peterson described it perfectly. He called it like a parasite in the mind. I'll do my best to find that to find his explanation for that when he said it. We'll go from there, and then we'll also touch again the prestige economy. Will go through in more detail, and I guess that's it. We'll move on to a different topic, or if if you can tell me on the comments if there's anything else that you would like for me to discuss or add and look into, please feel free. Don't worry about it. We're in Facebook also. I have the links, I think, on the about page. Just click on it, send me a message. Don't hesitate. Please feel free to do that. If there's any additional questions that you have, or if you would like to correct me, please feel free to do so. I'm always open to a conversation. I would love to hear your feedback. Please, like I always say, never take my word for it. If you can do your own research, great. Please, I would really appreciate the help if you can. Like send me your own research. That'll be great. This is a conversation between you and me. If you would like to come on air or whatnot, please feel free to do so. Just let me know. Just reach out. Don't hesitate. Again, thank you very much. My name is Joey. This is Elias Journeys. Life is about making choices. Have a wonderful and safe rest of your day. Thank you.